Well, good morning. How is everyone? I hope you're well. And is it hump day? I think it is. It's damn happy hump day. This week is flying and you're looking fantastic for it. But anyway, we need to get straight into the meat and potatoes this morning because we've got a fair bit to go through and I don't want this video to be too long so you can get on with your other stuff. And this is video 1 of 2 today. 2. My apologies. 2. So anyway, we're going to be talking about Brent Kohpacka and Bryan Kohberger because, look, this seems to be at the moment something that has sparked a lot of curiosity throughout the entire case, but a recent video done by Crime Circus, Drip Drop, has reignited some interest in a potential connection between Bryan and Brent. And look, you know me, if I do something, if I say something and I feel that it needs to be retracted, I will retract it. If I feel that initial thoughts were perhaps misguided, then I will come out and I will speak about it. But look, I'd looked into Brent Kohpacka after the video that was released by Crime Circus, because Crime Circus, that video was incredibly good. You know, from a content creation perspective, it was a very, very good video. It done everything that the YouTube algorithm, if you like, which rarely is just the viewer wants. They want to get information that sparks a curiosity, that perhaps confirms some of their own thoughts and feelings, and even other content creators like myself can watch something and think, do you know what, that's actually, that makes a lot of sense to something that I think, and this is what I'm going to say. I have, again, and I've said this categorically, that my thoughts surrounding Bryan Kohberger is that I personally, up until very recently, I hadn't even considered the fact that, look, could the guy have been set up? Could this knife sheath have been put there and planted to... You know, that wasn't something that crossed my mind. You know, I don't come from the UK. I don't come from the UK. I do come from the UK. I don't come from the US. So, you know, my knowledge about law enforcement and how that operates is seen through a lens. And a lot of that is through a lens of what you guys tell me, the emails I get, things that I see on social media. So it would be unfair of me to pass judgment and say, look, I know that the police officers in Washington, Idaho, Moscow, Idaho, or Washington would plant something in order to frame someone in this specific crime. I don't know that. I don't know. So I've come at this from an angle of, look, did Bryan Kohberger do it? I look at what is out to the public, the details of the crime itself. I look at what I see about Bryan, ignoring the other stuff that is kind of, you know, how it goes when other people like mainstream media and other channels get hold of it and they turn him into this narcissist who had a problem with women and did this and did that and I try and block that out and just look at Bryan from what we truly know, which is not a lot. So you look at him as a person and think, do I think this guy could have walked in and done this crime? And then you learn that there doesn't seem to be any connection between the victims and him, and you know, and I struggle to see him doing the crime all by himself. I struggle to think why someone would have gone into the house, this specific house that he could have potentially walked into, and there was a lot of people, when there was other houses around that area that was perhaps easier for him to go into. He could have even done this, if this was just about killing, he could have done it in the state with which he resided, and there would have been a lesser punishment if things had have gone awry. And I think to myself, okay, so was he just so arrogant that he didn't think he was going to get caught and he went by the old rule of you don't shit on your own doorstep? But then I think to myself, but he only went 9 miles down the road, so that technically is still his own doorstep. So if you're gonna not shit in your own litter box, don't shit in the nearest litter box to you, because it's the same thing. You might as well do it here if you're going to do it there. Anyway, I digress. Point being, I struggled to see Bryan Kohberger doing this on his own. And I think a lot of people have got into this same trap where they think, do you know what? Okay, so if the knife sheath wasn't planted and we have to accept that this guy is somehow involved, how do we make him involved? And it makes sense for us to consolidate this crime into he had someone doing this crime with him. And you know me, as things progress and things come out and we talk about it and we spitball together and you guys share ideas and I share ideas, things evolve over time, and our ever-changing thoughts on this case evolve also. And this is where I think the issue stems, because this entire situation with feeling that Bryan Kohberger could have struggled to do it in this space and time is because of these specific factors. Now, I'm not ignorant to the fact that someone could easily walk into this property and do this crime in a short period of time. Of course they could. They could go in there and flail around like a lunatic and do the crime and then run out. And I'm not saying that can't happen. But when you factor in other things, that's when the likelihood of that very small time frame shrinks right down. Because I think to myself, not only did he do it with this speed, but supposedly other people in the house didn't know it was happening. Yes, we hear that they heard something that sounded like they were playing with a dog, whatever, and they heard someone whisper or in a low voice saying, "I'm here to help you." So that is saying to me, okay, so they are almost saying I was compos mentis, I could hear what was going on in the house to the point where I could actually hear near enough the exact words or paraphrasing what someone was talking in a low voice. So then I'm thinking to myself, right, so if you heard that and two of these victims you was literally like only a few yards away from, how did this person do this so quickly but with no noise? We hear that there was, or we heard through Steve Gonsalves that there was a massive struggle. But then I'm thinking to myself, well, massive struggle. We got sort of tidbits of some of the injuries, which again would indicate struggle. But again, we've got two roommates who didn't hear anything in terms of the attack itself. And then you pair that with the aforementioned 8-hour time delay that we keep saying. And the problem is we have to keep saying it because that causes so many problems in this crime. So yes, when you pair that narrow time and you pair it with no noise, you pair it with no evidence being dragged out of the house, we're now hearing through official lines that there was apparently nothing found in his car, nothing found in his apartment, nothing found on him, so no DNA links between him and the victims, only this one knife sheath. You kind of then start to draw other conclusions because you're then thinking, well, the only person I can see who could do this kind of crime in this manner so silently and without any evidence being left and in, out and away kind of thing is almost someone with military precision. Which this dynamic, it then pushes you into potentially a coincidental scenario that was happening in Washington, which just happens to be the unraveling of Brent Kohpacka. And look, we do talk about coincidences. And sometimes a coincidence is simply a coincidence. But then when that door is opened and you walk through it and you're thinking to yourself, because you've already been you're funneled into this area that says, okay, Bryan Kohberger didn't do it alone. I don't think he could do it alone because of the information that we have access to. So I have to conclude that he done it with somebody. And I fell into this trap. And I'm not saying that if you're in this trap, you're wrong. I'm just trying to explain how we got here. So then we've got this situation with Brent Kohpacka. And Brent Kohpacka is seemingly ex-military. You know, he's done some brave stuff for his country, and you know, we can't take that away from him. But he was ill. Because of the work that he had done for the government, there had been repercussions that he had carried with him for many years. When you pair that with other information from where you hear about other ex-military servers who have indeed suffered from PTSD, and that has led them to go on to murder, it does. You know, I'm only saying it because, again, these are things that kind of go with when you're looking into things and when you're trying to make a decision on whether that fits, you take things into consideration. And, you know, at the end of the day, Brent Kohpacka was killed by SWAT because apparently he had become unstable. He was taking shots at them, and he, somewhere along this altercation, he had either threatened to kill his roommates, or there had been a statement about roommates and killing. And that can become quite convoluted because, you know, it's almost like Chinese whispers. Someone says something, and as it goes down the chain, it gets turned into something else. So we don't really know what happened. We weren't there, so we can only go by the official storyline. And because he's ex-military, because of where this was and how it happened, there isn't a lot of stuff. There is an investigation still ongoing around the shooting of Brent Kohpacka. It is still being investigated, and that who is investigating it is an investigation in itself if you look into it. And again, I can't do it on this video as this video will just be too long, but it's interesting to see the involvement of people and how this investigation into his shooting has come about. Anyway, so let's reel it in a bit. So we've got to a point where we've thought Bryan Kohberger had someone do this with him. And we've concluded that because of what we know about the murder itself, the speed, the seeming speed, the lack of evidence there, apart from the one mistake, that it just happens to be an ex-military style knife sheath, the K-bar, which is, you know, it's synonymous with the military. So all of these things feed into this connection between Brent Kohpacka and Bryan Kohberger. And then we'll jump a little bit forward and we have this situation with Crime Circus and this video that comes out. And it seemingly fills in a lot of spaces. And he does this fantastic video that says, look, Brent Kohpacka and Bryan Kohberger both lived in Pennsylvania. They seemingly lived in Pennsylvania around the same time. And then he moved over to Washington. This is Bryan Kohberger, and Brent Kohpacka then, you know, comes over to Washington or whatever. And it looks like they're almost following each other because they're friends and, you know, they move across country. It's almost insinuated that they did it together. So then I done a reaction video to that because I'm, you know, and it sparks some curiosity, and I tell people to go and look at this video. What I should have done was look into it a bit more myself, made a conclusion like now, and then come to you and said, look, this is what I think about it. Because I didn't do a deep dive search because I'm in the UK, I only have limited access to certain things without paying a load of money to find it. But there are certain things that I can find, certain records that I can obtain legitimately and quite easily, and you can do this yourself. And it would appear at first glance that Brent Kohpacka had actually spent a lot more time in Washington than Drip Drop had tried to make it seem. I can find at least one or two addresses from Washington. I think it's Spokane, if I'm correct, without looking back. I'll correct it if it's wrong on screen. And these are quite simple searches. So it would appear that Brent Kohpacka, he flitters around a bit. He's a bit of a, well, I don't want to say nomad, but he seems to want to move around, and that seems to be an area of which he'd ended up. And he was there seemingly through my own kind of looking into things. And again, this is why I tell people, go and do your own research. And that is why sometimes I will say things and I won't put things on the display, because that then I feel that's quite powerful and that can be wrong. So, I would say to anybody who's kind of in two minds now, especially if you're in the US and it does give you access to records, is go and look and do a search. Now, with respect of the address with which Drip Drop uses as Brent Kohpacka's in Pennsylvania, I in fact can't find anything that matches that in connection with Brent Kohpacka. I'm not saying he's wrong, I'm just saying I can't find it. And in fact, there are other people called Brent Kohpacka who are a lot older than Brent Kohpacka. And, I feel that there is a potential that, was there a mistake made? I'm not saying there was, I'm just wondering if that's possible, that looking for something, and then again, a coincidence, you find something. I suppose my point in all of this is that with respect to Brent Kohpacka and the Bryan Kohberger, I feel that because we've been looking for something, Brent Kohpacka potentially fell into this completely by accident, because he made the most sense if you contemplate the, this duo killers, or they went and done it together. Bryan Kohberger needed to have someone with him, and it seems that there is nobody else that you can link Bryan Kohberger to. No one has come forward as being a friend. Bit odd, but I don't know. And things that have been said in the background have kind of concreted in that he did struggle to make friends. His parents had apparently raised saying that they were concerned about the son moving away because he found it difficult to make friends. And I believe that it was stated early on that, I don't know whether it was the dad who had tried to help in that regard, to try and get people to, to like Bryan, to give him some time. I don't know. But is Brent Kohpacka and Bryan Kohberger involved in this crime? We don't know. The reality is we just don't know. It's like, again, going back to the Drip Drop video, we have this almost like a memorial set up in a photographic situation where you've got this massive bladed knife in the middle and you've got this blue thing around the handle. It almost looked staged. It almost looked like it was set up. And I will say that where that shot was taken from, the backdrop actually belonged to the friend. So the film memorabilia and what have you in the background is likely belonging to the friend, not necessarily Brent. He was actually taking a photograph, strangely, of the table itself. But I just find that very bizarre as well. It's almost like it was, again, an orgy of evidence to support a negative narrative. That I don't know whether the person who took that photograph, if they were truly Brent Kohpacka's friend, they truly understood what that was going to do when you've got this crime that just happens to be 4 slain university kids who were stabbed to death, and he's got a picture of this massive great knife and this, you know what I mean? But that's what happens. Pictures come up online and things do get done intentionally. Case in point, the fact that on the obituary page of Brent Kohpacka, someone just happens to do Bryan Kohberger, will miss you, best bud, or something. Well, I'm paraphrasing, but Bryan Kohberger writing on that wall. And I'm thinking to myself, really? But people will look at that and they'll be like, well, he's his friend. He's clearly his friend because he's even written on his wall. And I'm thinking to myself, if they did this crime together, would Bryan Kohberger have put his name on there? Would he? I don't know. But this crime, it's becoming clearer and clearer every day that we don't know anything. We truly don't know anything. The people who think Bryan Kohberger is guilty, they don't know anything. The people who think that he's not guilty, they don't know anything. The people who are on the fence, and they don't know anything. The most sensible people in all this are people, even they're more sensible than me, and that is the people who have just succumbed to the fact that not enough is known to make a decision on any element of this case. And for that reason, they're just going to wait until this goes to trial and more stuff comes out. Now, can I say that I'll do the same? No, because even if I stop making content, there will be people like the Tyler Fellas of the platform, people like News Nation, people, multiple people, Nancy Grace even, who are hell-bent on pushing a specific narrative that is based on their own speculation and conjecture. And as long as they're going to keep doing it, I'm going to keep coming back, and I'm going to keep trying to balance the scales. And that's what this video is about, balancing the scales. Do I think that there's a potential that Brent Kohpacka and Bryan Kohberger did this? Yes, I do, but I only do because I'm trying to consolidate my own theories on this case, and that doesn't make me right. It just means that I am seeking information to try and confirm what I believe. And when you've got limited access to details and there's not any other angle, and you just happen to have this story that is happening alongside it, it's like that eureka moment. I was talking to someone yesterday in a restaurant, and we was talking about this crime, and I explained the situation, and their first thoughts were, well, Kohpacka and Kohberger done it together. That was their first thought. They'd not even known about the case. They'd not even seen it. I'd started talking about it because I'm a sad loser. And yeah, that was their conclusion based on what I'd told them. And I just told them about the case. But let me know down below, is that what this is? This is what we're doing. We are trying to make ourselves right, and by seeking ourselves being right, it pushes us in specific directions. Like, again, this ain't about hating on Tyler Fella. The only thing that pisses me off with Tyler Fella, I will say, is when he says he's 100% crowdfunded and he needs donations in order to be able to keep doing what he's doing, and that is a lie, a flat-out lie. He is not crowdfunded. You assist him on top of his baseline advertisement revenue, which is higher than the vast majority of his subscribers likely get paid annually. I'll tell you that much. So the fact is, like I say, with Tyler Fella, for instance, he believes Bryan Kohberger is guilty, and that's his right to believe he is guilty. Believe he's guilty, fully understand that. People have a right to see what they see. But what frustrates me is when they try to get people to join them in that same thought process, but they don't allow people access to everything they need in order to make a decision based on what's right. They narrow it down, they whittle it down, they chip bits off, they twist things to make it look a certain way, to make it easier for them to accept what they are saying to them. I'm right because of this, and they're not given the full story because they know that if they gave them the full story, they wouldn't probably get the same level of support. Anyway, if I keep rambling, this video is going to be 3 hours long. You get my point. I should have done this in a live, and I will be doing a live. But just to let you know, for those of you who are not very eagle-eyed, the winner of the competition has already been stated in a video that I've done over the last 3 days. So if you didn't see it, that means you're not watching the videos. And if you didn't see it and you didn't watch the videos, I'll be announcing the winner in another video in the next 48 hours. I am looking to go live, but I'm having some difficulties with the internet again, as they are doing a system upgrade in order to put fibre in the area, because we're a militarised zone. And that, don't ask, I'll get round to it very soon. But keep an eye out in the videos, because I will be nominating the winner. I might actually be doing 2. So just keep your eyes peeled. Let me know down below what you think about what we've discussed this morning. I will catch you all in the next one.